Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris and welcome to another review of a Wave 2 LEGO Avatar set. This is set number 75578, the Metkayina Reef home, featuring a really interesting slice of life for the villagers on Pandora with a place above the water, a delineation of where the water is, and then a whole scenery area underwater as well, which is a really unique idea for a LEGO set. Of course, for this review, we will just be looking at this one particular set. If you are interested in my mega review of the entire LEGO Avatar Wave 2 sets, as well as my mega review of all of the Wave 1 sets, I've linked those in the description below. We have an entire Avatar reviews playlist, so do check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, if you only want to see my thoughts on this one set, then you are in the right place. And so without further ado, I think it's time we jump right in to the review. Okay, so here we have set number 75578. This is the Metkayina Reef home. It comes with 4 minifigures and retails for $80 US. Specifically, the minifigures are Neytiri, Kiri, Ronal, and Tonowari, which is the pretty perfect minifigure selection for the set, featuring a good balance between some of the main characters, the tree-dwelling Na'vi, as well as the water-dwelling ones. As with all the other set reviews, we will be going into very minor spoilers throughout this review, so do be aware of that if you want to go in the movie completely blind, although I'll mostly just be talking about how things differ from their on-screen counterparts, and if the minifigure selection makes sense. So specifically, this is a Way of Water set that really only focuses on one large structure. And one of my favorite things about this model is the way that the designers were able to depict different layers of water in one go. Specifically, there is kind of one additional side piece just to mount a minifigure on, and again, all the bases are octagonal, which means that they're specifically meant for you to combine and kind of add on to different parts of it, which I do really appreciate. When I spoke with the Avatar designers, they specifically stated that it was a challenge to be able to depict different levels of water in one set, and the way they eventually overcame that challenge was by depicting it in different kind of colors of bases. You have the deeper dark blue water down here, so this is all underwater, and then you go upwards and you have some kind of water going and splashing up on the logs here, and that's kind of the surface of the water, and this is a structure that's above the surface, which is the only set out of the entire wave which is basically meant to go above the surface. Now overall, this is a really nice looking model, and I think this is probably one of the most accurate to the movie. I was really remarkably impressed by how accurate all of these sets were to the film itself, and this is probably one of the most accurate ones, where you have kind of a home here. This is an actual homestead. It is just kind of a facade because when you move it backwards, there's really nothing in the back, but it does the job perfectly fine. On the outside, you have these large vinyl pieces being used for the home reef itself. You have one of the small boats, which actually is really accurate. Like, the boats really do look like these. They had the pointed ends, and they had this kind of teal-like color scheme, so I like how they were able to include a boat there, kind of one of the smaller boats. And then basically you have this interesting angled structure where you have a bridge going over to this side. You have a lot of underwater display stuff, and altogether, this is just a really fun-looking playset for the Avatar line featuring one of the homes. It's one of the only sets that doesn't emphasize any conflict. All of these characters are, well, more or less on the same side, so it's kind of cool to have just a very peaceful set being introduced for the Avatar line, and I really like how the underwater bits always have a little piece to stick swimming minifigures onto, so you can actually have minifigures be swimming in different configurations throughout the model itself. Now, we're going to take this section by section, so I want to zoom in first on the internal part of the house. This is where the most detail is found, and you can actually see there's a lot of stuff going on here. Let me just remove the minifigure because we'll be talking about the figures at the end of the video, but going closer into the build itself, you've got a little cooking area, so you've got a pot hanging over the fire, which is really nice. You've got some fish cooking here, some plates, and some seats as well, so this is kind of a food preparation area. Moving on to here, you have some vials or stuff, maybe liquid stored there, and altogether this feels like a very lived-in space. There is something going on at pretty much every corner, from cooking areas and food being laid out on plates, and overall this is just a really cozy looking space to be able to place minifigures around. You could have them seated around the fire and so on and really kind of replicate a dinner experience there, so that is a really cool thing to do. And altogether, I'm a big fan of the way that this all ended up in terms of giving us a lot of detail on the inside of the house, while still making sure that this was staying within budget. Of course, you have a ladder so you can drop down to the water if you want to at any point, and then you can also continue your journey and really play with the minifigures kind of traveling out of the houses and going along the bridge here and boarding the boat. And you have this little dock here, which is a really nice one to be able to feature a dock-like build here, so you can have your minifigures be paddling along. And altogether, I don't know, the vibes of the set are just really cozy. That's really the only way that I can put it, is that this just feels like a very lived-in space, it feels very realistic, and represents a great location from the movie itself. And honestly, there's not much else I can even say about it besides that. Now, speaking a little bit in terms of the value, this is $80 US, and unlike a lot of the first wave Avatar sets, or unlike some of the first wave Avatar sets, I think $80 is actually pretty good value for this. It's not great, but it's not bad either. It's pretty average for what you would expect to see from LEGO nowadays. I can certainly name 1,000 other more expensive, overpriced, even sets that are $80 in other LEGO themes, Star Wars, where $80 sets are way too expensive. This, for instance, feels like you're getting a pretty good amount of value for the money that you're paying. Maybe they could have made it 75, not even 70, because you're getting a lot here. So $80 actually does feel pretty fair for this particular set, I will have to say, unlike a lot of the other sets that LEGO is putting out. So well done, LEGO, for giving us actual good value here. Now, in terms of the minifigures, I definitely do wish they included maybe just a couple more than just 4. We'll talk about the minifigure selection later on when we go into the minifigures in depth, but going into minor spoilers, you have basically the 2 tribal chieftains here who own the home, but it also would have been really cool to see their kids as well, and for $80, I feel like it would have been not too much more expensive to just include one or a few of their kids in this particular set. They do come in the other sets, but it would have been nice to get doubles of them. It also would have been nice to maybe get Jake in a different outfit for this set as well, because you do have Neytiri and one of their kids, but you don't have Jake himself, and I do kind of wish that he came in a maybe casual outfit for this particular set, which I feel like would have added to a lot to the set itself. Altogether though, I think it is a pretty good looking set overall, definitely very reminiscent of the actual film, and overall just a really good build in general. Okay, so here are the 4 minifigures included in the Metkayina Reef home set. It comes with Neytiri, her daughter Kiri, Ronal, and Tonowari, the 2 chieftains. Now, this is a really interesting minifigure selection, and one again that I feel like could have been a little bit better just in terms of the amount of figures included in the set. Would have been nice to get some other members of each of their respective families, but if you're gonna include these figures in one set, this was the set to include them in. Now, Tonowari does appear in one other set, but here he actually is wearing a casual outfit. The differences are very, very minute, but they are there. It is slightly different just in terms of the chest printing, where you can see here he has some metallic armor in the other set kind of going into battle, whereas in this set he just has a casual outfit, which I do appreciate how they continue to give us unique minifigures in each set. There isn't one set where there is a reuse of a certain figure. Every single one includes a different style of the minifigure, so that is a really cool thing. One thing that I find really impressive is that they were able to depict a pregnant Na'vi really well. In the movie, the character is pregnant, and you can really see that in the way that the printing is kind of shaped around the tattoos here. I really appreciate the way that LEGO was able to go above and beyond in the printing for the torso itself to really replicate that, where you can definitely look at it, even though it's not 3D, this looks like it actually is bulging outwards. So that is one thing that's really cool. Now, the figures themselves, I definitely do wish for the Metkayina Reef people, they had a little bit of a wider tail. In the movie, they have wider fish tails to go swimming, so I definitely do wish they had a different mold for the tail there, but I understand if you're going to have to introduce only a few molds here or there, that's really not a big priority, so I get why they just reused the old mouse tail, but I would have liked a different one. Now, in terms of the tree-dwelling Na'vi, or kind of the main characters here, this is unfortunately our only set with Neytiri, and she is not in her warrior outfit, she's just in the casual one. It is nice to get her in a casual outfit, but given how prominent she was as a fighter and a warrior in the movie, I kind of do wish that we were able to get just another copy for her in a different set in terms of a warrior outfit. But the casual one is absolutely perfect for this particular set. I really like the way the figure came together. It looks really good. It is yet another one, and we did get like 4 of her in the previous wave, so maybe it makes sense to give some of the slots to other characters. So it is nice to get this character again, but definitely wish that it was in a different outfit. Now, in terms of the final minifigure here, the Kiri figure, this represents a teenager minifigure, which I think is okay. You have kind of Sigourney Weaver's expression being replicated onto the face here, which is okay in the way it's done. It's not wonderful. I think they've done a better face print for some of the other characters in terms of the actor and actress likenesses, but I think it's alright. One thing I do really like is the inclusion of the metallic silver printing here. That absolutely stands out and feels very special to me in the way this figure is put together, having these kind of feathers or teeth-like attachments on the torso reflecting the light, which is very cool. Now, One thing that was very prominent for her character in the movie, and not to get into many spoilers, but there were scenes in the movie where certain dots on this particular character glowed. They tried to work that in by having very minute, if you can tell, there's really small little dots in metallic silver that reflect on her face and torso here. I just kind of wish they were a little bit more prominent because they were a big part of the movie, seeing how she reacted to different environments, and that is something I do feel like is missing from the character, is having maybe a little bit more shine to the little smaller dots. Overall, though, the minifigure selection is pretty good. 4 minifigures for an $80 set is okay. I definitely feel like they could have included more if they wanted to, and they might have been able to include even just like a casual Jake Sully, as I said, or some of the children of the chieftain. But in terms of the character selection, all of these make sense to include, and I'm a big fan of the way these minifigures turned out. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our look at set number 75578. This is a really interesting set that depicts the land of Pandora above the water as well as below. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this model if you've had the chance to build it yourselves? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? And what are your thoughts on the Avatar Wave 2 sets as a whole and how they stack up against their appearances in the movie? And so without further ado, I think it's time we sum up this video. Thank you all so much for tuning into Duck Bricks. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks, and bye for now.